All right, we're back. I went to start putting this harness onto the truck, and then I was going to splice in the transmission harness into this harness, as we discussed in the previous video. Got started, connected to the throttle actuator controller, went to go connect to the throttle motor on the engine, and discovered we had a little issue. I don't know if I ordered it wrong or I received the wrong harness. This is a green-blue harness for the late models, 04 to 07. What I needed was the red-blue harness, 01 to 03. So what I did is I was able to track down the connectors, throttle actuator controller tack on this side, and then the actual connectors to the throttle body and throttle position sensors on this side. Track those down, was able to plug them into there, know that these fit. Then I traced those wires back to here, made my list, and then did the same for the harness. This is a different connector. Like I said, it's for the late models. This would plug all into the throttle motor and give it throttle position sensor. All the signals go into there all in one connector, unlike these where it's two separate connectors. Trace these wires back to the 16-pin connector that connects to the throttle actuator controller, track those down, and then double check my work against a wiring harness from lt1swap.com. And so from lt1swap.com, and so I know that the yellow wire goes to pin 16 on here. Brown wire's 8, gray wire is pin 2, dark green wire is pin 1, so on and so forth. I was able to double check my work, which I've already done. Like I said, it was already done here. So those don't even connect to your red and blue here so much as they just talk to the throttle actuator controller back and forth there. So anyway, those wires will get cut. We'll splice in the new connectors, and then also we'll make any changes that we need to make to this harness here at the ECU side, and put the proper colors on there since I have those connectors. And we'll move along. Once we get this harness plugged up on the motor, we'll actually start splicing in the transmission harness as well. I've got a separate alright, there's my spreadsheet, and this is the wires that go between the transmission TCU and the ECU. So pin 21 red, pin 53 is red blue, pin 53 red is a blue wire, and those are labeled from the previous video, and we'll break that down. We'll plug those into this harness and continue this harness series videos. It's going to turn into a 3-video series instead of a 2-video series, but that is life, and that's how this harness will come together. It's still going to be less time than I spent going through that entire harness, digging through every wire in that harness. I removed as many wires as I felt comfortable removing. With this, it's a standalone harness that comes with, a couple wires here that we'll clearly be able to add power to, and then some of these will be controlled by relays in there that turn on things such as fans or fuel pumps, and that's where this pigtail here comes off of that standalone harness. Again, that's going to save me weeks and weeks worth of work. All I'm doing is simply, it took me a couple days to get this one figured out. Mostly I just couldn't find these. They were in the wrong box. But I did find them, and they will plug into my motor, and we'll get this moving along. I'm going to throw a couple of these waterproof heart splices in, or waterproof butt splices, and continue from there. Okay, I have the wrong code. right crimpers on these, or a better crimper. I'll be right back. All right, we've had a brief break there where I had to go get better crimpers and crimper strippers, electrical tool, and we're going to make sure these are crimped good, and then we're going to go into the next part, and then we'll heat shrink all of them. Okay, there's those two guys. And then we got the throttle position sensor wires. I have a little bit of extra convoluted tubing to put on there to dress it once I splice these in. Purple to purple, so on and so forth. I don't know if you could see what I'm doing. I'm actually staggering so all the splices aren't in the same spot. I'm going to stretch them out to where they start on deeper into the harness and then spread through towards the other end of the harness. The harnesses can be combined together. So all the splices won't be in the same place. That's a little trick I learned in the aviation world. We were only allowed so many splices per an inch of cabling, regardless of how many wires were in the bundle. One of the biggest bundles I ever repaired had over 350 wires, and we went several feet into that harness just to offset the splices. Now, as a tip splice, the guys in the field, to get the aircraft flying again, they just bundled all the splices together and put the aircraft back in the air. During the next phase, maintenance inspections, we had to go in and actually correct that and repair it properly by the specifications. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and splice these together, either finish this video up or going to splicing in the pinning in the transmission harness next. Alright, this is how all my splices look. See how they're staggered so they're not all in one spot. That's one connector, there's the other connector. But yeah, we got all the splices staggered. Yeah, you can see there's some color changes between one harness to the other, or one pigtail to the harness. But hey, that's how it goes together. Alright, here we go. We're back, and we're continuing the series where I connect the TCU harness into a reasonably affordable Amazon standalone harness. In place of spending weeks and weeks cutting away an OEM harness, stripping it down to bare minimum, I chose to get an Amazon harness and then fix what's wrong with that harness, and then tag in, because there's no harnesses out there for an Allison transmission to go with your LS swap, because this is not an LS swap. I'm using an 8.1 Vortec with an Allison transmission. Both of my donor vehicles have been 8.1 Allison swaps. I've got one currently running in this mill truck right here, and there's a rolling chassis out there with an 8.1 and Allison there. That's an early one, the red-blue harness, not the green-blue harness. I accidentally ordered the wrong harness from Amazon. It's my fault. I have early in this video, you will see where I fixed the harness by splicing in the proper connectors that go to the throttle actuator. And right now I have gotten it down to the 6 wires that connect between the TCU harness and the ECU harness. So I have almost a standalone TCU harness. We have 6 wires that we have to connect to the ECU, and that is red 2, it's a white wire, it goes to TCC. Red 5, it's a tan black wire, delivered torque. Red 16, gray and black. Was not able to identify what that wire signal goes to the ECU as. Red 21, that's a yellow wire. VSS, that's vehicle speed sensor. So that tells the ECU how fast your transmission translates that it's going. Red 53 is a blue wire. Again, I was not able to always identify these. I believe the ECU harness said that was an unused wiring pin. And then blue 13 is an orange and black wire, and that is requested torque. It's this video. I just broke down my last 30-minute video into this 2-minute speech of this video. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these wires, pin them into mostly the red side, and then the one blue, the orange black wire that goes to pin 13 blue, and we'll have these two harnesses married together. Later on, I'll clean this harness up and wrap it, put some new convoluted tubing on it. We do have some pink and orange wires to power up the TCU. That will get wired into the other harness here. The standalone harness will also have some key switched on type connectors, and then the pink and the orange, one's key on and one's battery hot. I'll wire those up at the same time as I'm wiring this harness up, and we'll have these two, ECU and TCU, talking to each other, having a happy running 8.1 Allison swap in a matter of weeks instead of months or whatever I took on the last harness. It's a lot faster and a lot less effort on my part as compared to my previous 8.1 Allison swap. So we're going to get this pulled together just with 6 wires, marrying the two harnesses together, and that'll be the conclusion of this video. In the very near future, I want to get the vats removed from the ECU, and we'll get that wired up with a battery, wire in the fuel pump relays, that kind of stuff, and get that rolling chassis started and running. Even though I don't have a drive shaft, of course, there's no body on it, no steering column, anything like that right now, but I do want to hear that motor run without the vats, and that'll be a video coming in the very near future. And then what I want to do with that body, and then what I want to do with that chassis is do a body swap, finding a really cool body to put on that chassis, whether I have to stretch that chassis or shorten that chassis. I want to get that chassis up and running as a 2001 suspension, modern suspension, smoother ride, better hauling capabilities, or just a smoother ride, and just put an older body on it. Thinking something older than a square body Chevy. If you have something in mind that you want to sell or trade to me, please contact me and let me know. And as always, y'all behave. We'll see you in the next one.